I have to declare openly the theme or the title of the lecture tonight was a mistake. Was a mistake. Because you have been deceived by the media to pick and choose what the media wants. Now consider this. In any conflict, it has never been a straight fight. You know what is a straight fight? Satu lawan. Now in any election, especially the last election, GE13, there are 3 corner fights and even more. In Kajang, there were 6 cornered fights. Pertandingan 6 penjuru. Just imagine, okay, the voter at the voting, apa ni kita panggil apa tu? Tempat mengundi. They have 6 candidates to choose from. And I think in Kajang, they would take some time to think which one I want to tick. As opposed to those voters, yeah, who vote in the constituency where there was a straight fight. You only have 2 choices. So you just strike one of the box. Here you have 6. Okay? And to those who are uninitiated, politically naive, he will have a great trouble to choose which one. Would I choose based on race? Would I choose based on religion? Would I choose based on sentiments? I don't have any problem, even if it's a 10 corner fight. I have already decided, long before the election. I don't ask who I will vote. But this is a case. This is a case. In any conflict, especially modern day conflict, it has never been a straight fight. Okay, consider this, for dan akhwat, dear brothers. Consider this. When we talk about al-haq, the truth, see, the slide hasn't changed. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Did I start my lecture with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim? Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruhu. Okay? In a modern day conflict, in fact, in the olden days, and even more so today and in the future, there is not that straightforward, especially when it involves al-haq, the truth. The truth will not face a single opponent. The truth, al-haq, will face a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even more opponents. And it makes things complicated because some of the opponents, they come together. They form a pact. And some of the opponents were actually opposing each other. And some of the opponents tend to be at the side of al-haq. Now can you imagine how confusing it is? And not only that, the situation is dynamic. What used to fight, what used to oppose each other, 2 parties used to oppose each other, suddenly they jump ship and join the other ship. They change side. They fight each other like there's no tomorrow, and suddenly they become one. And even some of them declare their support with us, the truth. I just give you one example. We have perang tiga segi. Perang tiga segi, but triangle war. Some words cannot be translated. It's actually a three-corner fight, a three-corner war. See? If you translate it into Malay, it becomes perang tiga sudut. Doesn't sound right. So, perang tiga segi. In English, it will be a three-corner fight or a three-corner war that involve the Portuguese, Aceh, and Johor. Have you learned that in history? So there are many factors, political factors, economic factors, and in that three-corner war, you will find occasionally the Aceh and the Johorians were together in facing the Portuguese. And sometimes even the Johorians sided with the Portuguese to face off the Achenis. So there are political factors, there are economic factors that come into the picture and make things very confusing. Now, in the case of Iraq, is next to Iran on the east, on the eastern side. And to the western side, Jordan and Syria. And the westernmost state that borders the Mediterranean Sea is Lebanon. Okay, if you imagine the stretch of land from Iran to Lebanon, it forms an entity called the crescent. Okay. So, you know what is crescent? Okay, or a belt. Now, Iran officially is a Shiite state, right? And you know what is the demography of Iraq? What is the majority sect in Iraq? Are the Sunnis the majority or the Shiites the majority? You are mistaken. 3/4, 75% of the population, the demographic breakdown of Iraq is Shiite. So the Sunnis are the minority. But during the time of Saddam Hussein, and even before that, the Sunnis were in power. Okay? The Sunnis were in power. The Shiites were marginalized, or rather kept in check. Now, when the Americans came, the demography doesn't change, it did not change with the American invasion, but the power shifted. The Shiites were empowered by the Americans, so they became politically empowered and actually controlled Iraq. So now you have Iran, officially a Shiite state, but please remember this, there are 18 million Sunnis in Iran. And that's why when we want to analyze any international issue, number one, you need to know the historical background. Number two, you need to know the geopolitical situation. Geopolitical means not just about that country, but the surrounding countries and the region as a whole. See? And you need to know about the international agenda of the superpowers. And then we can have a more balanced view of what is happening. So coming back to Iran, Iraq, which used to be under the control of the Sunnis, I'm sorry, I have to say, I have to speak in the sectarian language. Okay, this is not a session to bash Shia. Okay? This is not an anti-Shia lecture. Meaning to say that I'm not here to strip Shiites naked. Okay? Shiites have their own problem, which we can address in another platform. Now we want to focus on Iraq. But in order to have a balanced narrative, the sectarian component must not be neglected. It has to be addressed. Okay? So Iran, Iraq, what lies to the west of Iraq? I'm not going to show it on the slides. This is the reason of generations of today becoming so uninitiated, because everything they want to I've been betrayed, never mind. Try to train yourself to have a mental picture of the world, especially the area or the region of interest. Because we are going to face a big problem every time when you want to give presentation. Suddenly the lights went out, or suddenly the projector is not giving the cooperation. So you are left with just the mic. Because everything is on the slide and not here, jam. So the best preparation is actually mental preparation. You know what you want to say, what is in your presentation. Never rely on your slides. In fact, it kills creativity. I think PowerPoint kills creativity. That's why I don't like to use PowerPoint, because you have to follow the points. But if I don't have the points, I can go anywhere. This is like a road map that you cannot run away from. Okay, Syria and Jordan. Now Syria has been under the rule of the Nusayris. You know the Nusayris? Okay, the Nusayris, the regime, Bashar Assad and his late father, Hafidzi Assad, they came from the sect called the Nusayris. Nusayris is actually a religion that came after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about 200 years, by a personality called Ahmad Nusayri. So it was an innovation, a bid'ah, because elements of Christianity and elements of paganism was incorporated into Islam, to the point that Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, a student of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, just refer to it as pagan. And Imam Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned it as even worse than, lebih kafir daripada Kristian. Now, Christianity is already kafir. Okay? Now it's even worse than kafir. So no wonder that his father, Hafidzi Assad, has no qualms in killing 40,000 Muslims in Hama in 1982. Okay? For the accusation of alleging that the people of Hama were instigated by Ikhwanul Muslimin. I remember just 3-4 months before that, in 1981, September, this is the time. What is today? What is the date today? 30. 12? 12. 16 and 17th September was the tragic massacre of Sabra and Shatila in 1981. Okay, we are going to commemorate And remember Malaysia Day, 16 September, in the context of Sabra Satila. So never forget that. It happened on the same day. The point is, 5 months after that, in 1982, 40 to 45,000 Muslims in Hama was massacred mercilessly, using tanks, using helicopter gunship, using jet fighters. Remember, Hafiz Assad massacred and murdered his own people. Why? Because of the hatred, sectarian hatred. Not only because they were alleged to be aligned with Ikhwanul Muslimin, they were Sunnis. Now the strange thing is, Nusayris only made up about 8 to 9% of the population, and yet they were in control politically. Why? Because they were handpicked by the French in 1916, following Sykes-Picot agreement that divided the whole of the Levant of Bilad Sham into the existing nation states of today: Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Palestine. Okay, so Syria now, as a result of the Arab Spring, the general populace, the population, the people stood up against the authoritarian rule of Bashar Assad, who were very brutal. They were not only oppressive, they were so brutal. The people of Syria has never known not only freedom of expression, even freedom of thought. They are even afraid to think. They are even afraid to think, because every family, they have recruited and informed. Every family. And they do that from a very young age. Pupils in the preschool, they were indoctrinated that the president was like a god king. So there was an incident whereby there was a newspaper lying on the floor, and the father walked and stepped on a picture of Hafiz Assad. And his youngest son, who went to a tariqah, a preschool, cried. You know why? He cried because the father stepped on the face of Bashar Assad. And he reported it to the teacher. Because you are not supposed to show disrespect to the God figure leader. So that's why they say the Arab countries, before the Arab Spring, if you go for a Jama'ah prayer, for semayang berjemaah, congregation, you pray in congregation. I'm not talking about Salatul Jum'ah, I'm talking about Salat berjemaah. You pray in congregation. So if there are two rows, the first are the genuine people who pray. And the second row are most likely informers. That was at least that was the situation in Tunisia during the time of Habib Bourguiba and Zainal Abidin bin Ali, which was later ousted by the uprising of the people in Tunisia. Yeah? You know what happened in the 1960s? Habib Bourguiba even passed a presidential decree. A presidential decree is a law, indisputed law, that Ramadan during the time of Ramadan, the Muslims were forbidden to fast. That was in the 1960s, early 1960s. And just to prove a point, he had lunch with his cabinet ministers in broad daylight, and that was published in the media. And then he asked the Grand Mufti to announce it on radio, that Muslims are forbidden to fast during the Ramadan because it is not productive. And I think that is what happened. During the time of Ramadan, they set so many KPIs. Right, Cikgu Samsudin? Everybody is trying to meet their KPIs during the month of Ramadan and deny us the right to fulfill the month of Ramadan with all the good deeds, which comes only once in a year. But you see how what is the word? What is the word? The heresy, kefasikan that was displayed by Habib Bourguiba. So the Grand Mufti made an announcement, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim, Kutiba alaikumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladzina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Verily, Allah has spoken the truth and Bourguiba was lying. And we never heard of the Grand Mufti after the incident. But the point is, I want to show how oppressive and how brutal the Arab regimes back then. So when the uprising occurred in Syria in 2011 for an event that we have already explained, you know the background of the uprising in Syria? Okay? So when the people had the chance to go against this oppressive rule, what happened? Iran participated by sending in their revolutionary guards. And this is an opportunity actually to reinforce not only the regime, but to actually change the landscape of Syria into a Shiite, into a landscape of Shia. So now you have Iran, you have taken over Iraq, you are on the way to take over Syria, and Lebanon is the homegrown base of Hezbollah and Hassan Nasrallah, and these are Shia. So can you see the crescent now? The belt, the Shiite belt of the Shiite. I'm talking from the geopolitical aspect. Now, what is the role of the United States of America? Okay, there exists an uneasy relationship between the Sunnis and the Shiites, which now has actually blown into conflict. The two major sects, if you want to call it a sect, but to some ulama, Shiite is not Muslim. But for the purpose of discussion, we just call it a sect. Yeah? So now we have the Sunnis and the Shiites who were actually competing for a political dominance in the Middle East. So if you look south, we have Gaza, we have Jordan, we have Saudi, and we have the Gulf states. And these are traditionally the stronghold of the Sunnis. Okay? So now you have two conflicting or two entities which are on the verge of clash, head on. Okay, who will actually reap the benefits from such a conflict? Of course, Israel. Yeah. Israel will come out as the victor or the greatest beneficiary of this regional conflict. Do not conclude yet, I haven't finished. So what is the role of the United States of America? The role of the United States of America, now let's go back to the 3 corner, the 4 corner, and the 5 corner fights, and so on. So America, which has inherited from the British, the sole concern of the United States of America is to preserve Israel by any means. So when America economically and politically subjugate Saudi and the Gulf countries, that is only for the purpose of ensuring that Israel will remain sustainable. We have the proof. When Egypt took the democratic course, Hosni Mubarak was ousted, and it was replaced by the people's power. And when the people decide by the ballot box, through the process of democracy, what happened? They choose their leader of their own choice, who will preserve not only their rights, but will also preserve their freedom of speech. For the very first time, freedom was in the air when President Morsi was elected. Okay? And it is completely democratic. There may be vote rigging here and there, but President Morsi garnered how many percent of the votes? 52%. 51. That is a sign of a true democracy. Okay? Remember when Hosni Mubarak conducted presidential election, he always won by 90% over. And so was Sukarno during pre-Reformasi time. He won 97% of the votes every time. That is a sign of a fake democracy. A true democracy, the people will always be divided in the middle. And so you will have a wafer-thin majority, like in this country, 52% voted for the so-called opposition. But this country is very unique. I don't have to continue. But at least it shows there is some genuine democracy or democratic process going on. Okay, when America came in, and Egypt now is a real threat. So America will make sure that none of the countries, none of the Middle East countries, none of the Arab countries will pose as a threat to Israel. Whenever Israel is being threatened by any of the countries, then America will come and will make sure that this process of dismantling Israel will be frustrated. And that's why you are seeing America keeps on pumping money to Egypt, and even Israel supported Fatah al-Sisi, and this is no secret. This is no secret. Nobody can charge me with libel because there is documented evidence that Israel actually paid or even financed Fatah al-Sisi to make sure that President Morsi will be removed from the government and from the seat. For one reason, that is to preserve the longevity of Israel. So what happened in Syria?